Okay, let's start. Hello, Team APAC, and welcome to another exciting readiness webinar. Today's webinar is for all of those who couldn't join us first time. For those, I say happy new Chinese year, and all the best to you and your families. Today, we're going to talk about Zen Mobile. As you know, mobility is one of the hottest topics in IT today. And today we're going to talk about our mobility solution, Zen Mobile. Joining us from the US, we have two presenters from product marketing. We have Jamie Barnett and we have Cheryl Buchek. Thank you, ladies, for making the time to join us today. I just want to say that during the session, we will be taking questions and answers through the chat panel. So if you have any question, we will answer it through the chat panel. You can just put it through the chat panel. Also, we will be having 10 minutes question and answer time interval at the end of the presentation. Very importantly, I would like to draw your attention that at the end of the session, when I go and end the session, it says the organizer has ended the session, you will be prompted by a pop-up screen to fill in an evaluation form. When you go and consent to that, you will have a web interface will come up automatically, and you can go and fill in that evaluation form. Your feedback is very valuable to us, and it's the only way for us to improve our webinars and our readiness process. Thank you very much, and now I would like to hand over to Cheryl Butek for her interesting presentation. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Thank you very much, Wasi, for the introduction. Welcome, everybody. My name is Cheryl Bushek. I'm going to kick off our session, and then I will pass controls to Jamie Barnett. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm going to talk to you about a few different topics along with Jamie. First, we will do a brief review of some of the material you saw at Sales Kickoff regarding what are our mobile solutions, and effectively what are we selling. Then Jamie will discuss with you how we have mobility conversations in general in the sales force worldwide, and how we effectively compete in the very hot mobility market. And there are a number of competitors. So to get started, I want to start with this slide, because the most important words you can remember are complete solution. And when we say complete solution, here's the way Citrix defines a complete solution and differentiates above all others. We start from device management, the core and the basis of what every organization needs to effectively secure and manage every device that is being used to conduct work. Every mobile device specifically, tablets and smartphones, both iOS and Android. And then, of course, we built Cloud Gateway to expand upon Citrix's highly successful Zen App and Zen Desktop businesses, which deliver Windows content. We built Cloud Gateway to deliver all other types of applications very effectively, whether they be native mobile apps or web-based applications, out to any device. Additionally, we have a data management product that's called ShareFile. And ShareFile is the most secure, enterprise-ready mobile data management solution on the market today. And finally, Citrix has a core set of productivity apps that are designed for full-scale productivity for all users from any device. These are native mobile apps, some of which are delivered with our mobile solution, and some of which are separately purchased. So At-Work Mail and At-Work Web, our secure email and secure browser solutions, are included with our mobility solution. And then our customers will separately purchase and be able to fully leverage ShareFile, GoToMeeting, and Podio within our mobility infrastructure. So when we say we sell a complete solution, What we are saying is we are the only vendor in the market today to offer this complete mobility stack. And this portrait is enhanced by, sorry, I forgot what slide I was on. It's enhanced by a slide I'm going to show in two slides. So when Citrix and Zenprise came together, that's what enabled this full stack solution. Citrix brought your unified point of control over all apps and data, and Zenprise brought a market leader, as illustrated in the Gartner Magic Quadrant from last year, for head-to-head MDM solutions. So they were the clear visionary leader and in the leaders quadrant in last year's Gartner Magic Quadrant. This year, we intend to jump even higher than Zenprise was last year. So together, we provide a complete enterprise mobility solution, and we're the only ones by definition that can do so. This slide is what I was referencing as the most important slide you can show a customer, because this illustrates to a customer how Citrix thinks of mobility versus many other players in the market that only think of it in a very small way. So Citrix is the only one that has thought through end-to-end what it takes for a user and an organization to be fully productive when they're mobile and using mobile devices, and as productive as they are when they're sitting in the office, while allowing IT all of the security and control they need to protect their corporate data. So it's not, mobility is not just about mobile device management. It is not just about secure mail and secure browsers. It's also about securing all mobile apps. It's about mobile data control. And don't forget mobile network control, because by definition, when you are on a mobile device, you are outside generally the corporate network, and you're generally in an unsecured situation so far as corporate IT is concerned. And we have a number of other features that nobody else has thought to add in. Single sign-on and identity management are very important to both end users and IT from both an experience perspective and a security perspective. So when you go end-to-end, only Citrix has the full stack and the full-scale solution that really allows end users to be fully productive and allows IT the full breadth of control over devices, apps, and data. Just a very brief high-level look at what this full-scale mobility infrastructure includes, both on the end user's device and in the network and in the back-end data center. I wanted to make sure we illustrate how our mobility solutions fully leverage investments our customers have already made in Zen Desktop and Zen App, in NetScaler, and in using Receiver. So when somebody leverages our mobility solutions, they get to use the infrastructure they already have from Citrix, and they get to expand out in a very natural way what they can do with Citrix. It is no longer just about mobilizing Windows content. It is about mobilizing every application they would like to. It is about managing every mobile device for which users want to do work. So with that, that's our high-level overview, and I'm going to pass it on to Jamie Burnett, who will now talk to you about how to have effective mobility conversations. So Jamie, I'm going to change presenter to you.
Great. Okay, and I'm going to show my screen. And let's see here. I am right here. And let me, here we go. First of all, thank you very much for having me. Cheryl, can you hear me? Am I okay? Am I unmuted?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear, Jamie.
Excellent. Yes. Thank you very much for having us tonight. And just by way of introduction, I'm Jamie Burnett, and I came from the Zenprise side of things. So I came through the acquisition. Very happy to be here. If you knew of Zenprise before, you would know that many of our directions as a standalone mobile device management startup were very similar, I think, to what Citrix had. So we feel like where we were going is very much where Citrix is, And what we bring to the table was a hole in Citrix's portfolio. So we fit together very, very nicely, and we feel very good about bringing together these solutions into a complete solution. So what I want to do with you is two things. I want to talk to you about some of the conversations that you are likely to have with customers as you begin the discovery and qualification process. And then I want to talk to you a little bit about how you compete, the competitors that you're likely to run into in sales situations, and a little bit of information about how you can, about how those competitors will position against us and how we can position against them. So let's start with some of the mobility conversations first off. The first thing you should know is, who are you talking to? And we break these audiences into three. But before we even talk about the audiences, one thing that you should know is that many times the mobility buying audience is a team of people. Even if there is one decision maker, very often there are multiple parties involved, and so you will find yourself having multiple conversations on multiple levels. You will find somebody from IT involved, you will find somebody from security involved, messaging, you may find line of business people involved, and because this is a decision that touches a lot of people through the organization. Many buying audiences are under extreme pressure. They're under pressure from the users within their businesses to enable device choice, to support the devices that users are bringing in. And they're also under pressure from the line of business who wants to mobilize mobile applications in order to achieve some business goal. It can range from salespeople in a retail store to somebody in an air freight or airline, a flight crew. It can range to somebody in a restaurant, a host, hostess, or server in a restaurant. iPads, iPhones, Android devices are being seen in businesses all around the world. So who are you likely to talk to when you have your conversations? The majority of conversations happen, and the majority of buying audiences are in IT and or network operations. That's about a third of your audience. And these are people who are typically buying other types of technologies and finding themselves in typically a highly charged situation. All eyes are on them. They are the decision maker for mobility, and they're trying to learn very quickly and make the right decision. Somebody else you might run into is the messaging person, who is formerly the person who ran the BlackBerry and BES infrastructure. These are people who potentially are finding their world maybe becoming less important because BlackBerry is falling out of favor in enterprises, and so they are looking to reestablish, if you will, their career and their position in their organization by becoming the mobility specialist. And then you'll also find oftentimes you'll talk to somebody in desktop operations. And this is somebody that we know well through our existing businesses. And they are looking very, very often for an easy-to-manage solution, something that they can manage alongside the desktops and laptops that they're currently managing. So we'll move on. So what we've done is we've broken down the products and the conversations that you're likely to have into three areas. And these are targeted sales plays. And the first sales play is around core, basic mobile device management. And the sort of basic use case is the ability to centrally secure and manage both corporate issued as well as BYO devices. The second sales play is secure email. So we've isolated email in and of itself. This is a big enough market to deserve its own sales play. And the notion here is organizations want to be able to provide email that is easy to use for end users, but that protects the organization's security and data. And then finally, and this is sort of the catch-all use case, the use case that has, or the sales play that has many use cases associated with it, and that's around mobilizing data, apps, web apps, and even intranets for end users so that they can access them from their mobile device. I see that somebody is raising their hand, and so I just want to take a second and make sure that we answer that question. I am not sure. Cheryl, did you see if somebody had a question here?
Jamie, I don't see anybody raising their hand specifically right now.
Got it. Okay, maybe they unraised it. Okay, so the first use case around mobile device management is very simply securing and managing devices, and the types of conversations that you'll have are pretty basic, and they're around device management. Things like, my users are bringing in all types of devices, and I need to do things like set passcodes on the device or enable access to Wi-Fi. It's very simple device configuration type use cases, sometimes around security, like for passcodes and encryption, and sometimes for basic manageability and user experience, like I need to provision a certificate for Wi-Fi. You'll also see corporate issued use cases. You'll see conversations where folks say, I am issuing shared tablets to shift workers. I'm issuing them to nurses or to salespeople in a retail store or to hostesses and servers in a restaurant or to workers in a distribution center. And I need to be able to provision an app or a set of apps, and I need to manage those devices and make sure that I track them. I need to be alerted if they leave the facility and things like that. And then there's a conversation that is around needing to manage multiple use cases. I have users bringing in their own devices, so I need to manage BYO devices. And my CIO wants to issue iPads for a certain business unit, and so I need to manage both together. And of course, those have very different types of policies. They have very different security actions. For example, if a device is stolen and it's a and it's a BYO device or lost or stolen, you might take different action than if it's a corporate issued device. And then the last one is around just simple device choice, but what do I do if the device is lost or stolen? So these are typically very simple. They're around device management, asset management, device configuration, and security actions in the event of device loss or theft. And that's when you would position the mobile device management solution. So we'll move on to the second use case, or the second sales play, if you will, and that's around secure mail. And really, it kind of boils down to the question or the request from your customer, please give me email that that really delights users, but that I can embrace because it solves my security and compliance issue. And so some of the conversations that you can have typically are around a key competitor in this space, good technology. And very often the conversation starts with, gee, I've rolled out good technology in a pilot or in a small deployment, but I've had feedback from my users that the experience is terrible. And so I use it because I need the security, but my users are very unhappy about it. Some will talk about, I want to make my users' lives better with email because it's beautiful and helpful to their, additive to their life. It makes work more productive for them, but it needs to be secure. Other conversations may circle around BlackBerry, where very often our customers are replacing BlackBerry infrastructure with a multi-device infrastructure, but they need similar policy controls. And so the ability to offer a secure mail client is very helpful to them. And then there's the use case about being able to provision, and this is a very kind of concentrated use case, it's very specific, but many of our customers talk about needing to provision an email-specific PIN code. So the device itself may have a passcode to get into the device, but then within the email client itself, they need a separate passcode for that additional security and authentication. And very often the use case circles around, people bring their devices home and their kids get into email, and all of a sudden, you have your 3-year-old sending email to the CEO of the company. So that's the use case for secure mail. And if you are positioning, or if you're finding yourself in this conversation, you would position the mobile solutions bundle, and the solution within that bundle is At-Work Mail. The final sales play is around apps and data. And again, this is the sort of widespread use case or widespread sales play that has many use cases associated with it. So some of the conversations that you should listen for include words like app wrapping or app containerization. Some of the competitors that you might run into include a company called Nucona, which was bought by Symantec, or Mocana, which is being resold by a company called AirWatch. These are technologies that enable centralized security and control. You may hear conversations around mobile access to intranet and web apps, and that would pertain to the part of our solution that is At-Work Web, the secure browser technology. They may talk to you about needing to secure and manage both custom apps that they're developing themselves or that they're having a partner develop on their behalf, and off-the-shelf, third-party iOS and Android apps. You may encounter conversations where enterprises are issuing multiple apps and they need single sign-on for those apps for their users to make it easier for them to move in between apps. You may hear them talk about this competitor that we talked about before, Good Technology. Good Technology has a solution called Good Dynamics, which is their app containerization or app wrapping technology. And many customers talk about how it is too hard to implement. And so this is an opportunity to insert into that conversation. They may talk about data, where they need to provide easy access to data or content on the go. These could be presentations, they could be files, and the ability to loop into our ShareFile app to be able to access content is going to be very important to them. And then finally, they may talk about being able to extend their enterprise to partners and contractors. Maybe the situation is very similar to some of our customers, some of our current customers that use our full solution, that have maybe they have full-time employees, and for those employees they offer device management and application management, and it's a very robust solution, and they use many of the pieces of our solution. But for their partners whose devices they do not own, or who they want to have, they want to be less intrusive, they would provide secure application access, but that's it. They wouldn't want to manage the full device. And so that's an opportunity to position mobile application management as you would get in the Cloud Gateway solution. So with any of these conversations, you would position several of our technologies, and those would be available in the mobile solutions bundle. So those are things like MDX, which is our app containerization technology. Those would be At-Work Web, which is our secure browser, and things like that. And so those are available in the Mobile Solutions bundle. So those are the kinds of conversations that you're likely to have. And what I've done here, and I won't belabor this because it's a bit of an eye chart. It's hard to read just in a quick presentation. But you can go back and look at this chart and refer to it when you want to think about when you would position mobile device management versus mobile application management, or both. So some of the situations, for example, for mobile device management might include a corporate issued device for a shift worker where you need to actually manage the device, whereas mobile application management may be when, for example, you need to just provision secure email and that's it. And then there are many use cases for which you would need both mobile device management and mobile application management that are typically more robust, where you need to offer more security and more sort of management of those devices and apps. So you can come back and kind of look at this chart on your own. So before we move to competitive, I just wanted to see if there are any questions or even just feedback if you need me to slow down or speed up. Feel free to offer that feedback now. Cheryl, are there any questions that we need to tackle here?
No, Jamie, we're doing just fine. Oh, we did have a question come in just now. So, question from a previous Zenprise reseller. Should we sell touchdown? You know what, I'm going to answer this one in chat. There are many questions in one. So why don't you go ahead and do competitive and I will type the answer.
Okay, yep, this looks like, yep, and we can tackle it too if we need to be more nuanced in our answer, so feel free. So feel free to bring that back up if you want to talk about it. So just a quick note, this next bit of information is confidential. We take competitive very seriously. We don't have a lot of resources, but we do have some. And we have spent those resources in the past looking at some of our competitive solutions in a very robust way. So we'll go into product and take almost a QA approach to try to understand what are the strengths and weaknesses of our competitor's product. So that information is confidential, and I'm sharing some of it with you to hopefully give you a little bit more visibility into what our competitors' products look like and where they are strong and where they're weak. So please do not share that information, but hopefully it'll give you confidence as you position against those competitors in accounts. So as a framework, as we look at each competitor, we think that it helps to have something in your head to help you remember what your differentiators are vis-a-vis the competitors. And so we've broken it down into the three C's: comprehensive, compelling, and compliant. So, we think that our solution is more comprehensive. We have a broader solution. It's more compelling in that the administrative and user experience is typically better. And it's compliant in that we have taken a more secure and compliant approach to both the architectural elements of the product as well as many of the security features. So I'll show you what I mean. And before we start, I'll just, I'll say that the way that we're going to do this is we're going to look at how they position against us. So I'm trying to arm you with information about how they will compete against you and ways that you might respond, as well as how we should position against them. So if you are first in the account, you might take an offensive approach. If you are second in the account, you may have to find yourself defending, defending yourself if they have had the opportunity to position ahead of you. So AirWatch is the first competitor that we'll look at, and we'll look at three competitors. AirWatch is a very large startup within the United States. They got their start in wireless LAN management, and they are one of the biggest, probably the biggest, pure mobile device management solution. They are in the Gartner Leaders Quadrant, and the way that they typically, their claim to fame is that they are the low-cost leader. The way that they position against us is that they talk about their leadership. They talk about the fact that they have more features, and they talk about the fact that they are less expensive. And so those are kind of their three compelling points. But we'll talk about as we look at them, you know, and sort of how we can position against them. So the first is that we are much more of a comprehensive solution than they are, especially as Zenprise has come together with Citrix. As we've come together, we have identified our 6 strategic features. You know, when you break down the product into what the most compelling pieces are and describe those, AirWatch does not come close to what we bring to the table. So you can kind of take a look at, you know, some of the places that they fall short. Certainly, they are not able to provide any app on any device. Their application containerization technology is 100% white labeled and not integrated. It's white labeled from another provider. They do not have scenario-based access controls as we do. They do not have sandboxed apps like Mail, Browser, and Docs. And their federated identity and single sign-on story is much less robust than ours. So these strategic features, which have been identified from customers to us as being very important in their mobility strategy, are places where AirWatch falls short. Here is an example from their product about how it is difficult on the administrator. Many folks talk to us about how when you get started in AirWatch, their solution is difficult to use because it does not naturally lead you through a process. There's no wizard, there's no workflow-based system. You just kind of have a starting screen, and you have to figure it out for yourself. Here is an example as we move on from comprehensive to compelling, now to compliant, so the third C. We did some work to understand, you know, whether, you know, how high quality the product was. And I don't expect you to remember the exact, you know, the exact situation here, but hopefully this gives you confidence that when we say things like, gee, the solution is not secure, not compliant, poor quality, at least you have seen some of the examples. In this particular example, we went through the process of enrolling a device and then removing the profile from the device that keeps that device enrolled and communicating. We removed the profile, and then 24 hours later we tested it, and we found that the device still showed as being compliant on the AirWatch console. So from a compliance standpoint, that's a real no-no. Here is another example of AirWatch compliance. We took a look at whether there was consistency throughout the product around compliance, and we found that when we enrolled the device and then we unenrolled the device, we showed that the device was unenrolled. That was correct, and yet in the profile status, it still showed the device as being compliant. So inconsistency of reporting, also a big no-no for compliance. And then finally, from an architecture perspective, and even though this is much more of a sales engineer conversation, it's relevant to know that the way that their product is deployed is in an insecure fashion, with things like, and if you kind of look in the middle here where the DMZ is, you'll see that things like Active Directory, which is your enterprise directory information, and your certificate services both reside in the DMZ, where they are exposed and their data are exposed to the internet. So that is an insecure deployment, and that is how AirWatch recommends deploying their solution. So not compliant. We have several examples from customers and partners who talk about the compliance and security of the AirWatch product. They talk about things like having security breaches where devices have shown up on another organization's instance. They talk about the product being riddled with bugs, and they talk about downtime as a result of some of these security and quality issues. We'll move on to our second competitor, which is called MobileIron. MobileIron is a company very similar to ZenPrize, based in the Silicon Valley, a venture-backed startup. And the way that they position is they talk about being really the biggest and most successful startup in this space. So they say that, gee, we're the biggest, we're the most stable. They also talk about their security and their scalability, and those are really those are things that they talk about typically because they've been criticized for those, so they're trying to take an offensive position on those fronts. And then they talk about ease of use and ease of deployment, and those are the ways that they position against us. So how do we position against them? And again, we'll hearken to our framework: comprehensive, compelling, and compliant. The first one is comprehensive. Again, you'll see kind of based on these 6 strategic features that we've identified, where Citrix really takes a leadership position. MobileIron, again, does not provide any app on any device as we do. Their app containerization strategy is a roadmap strategy and not something that they have today. Their scenario-based access controls are nearly non-existent. They do not have the secure productivity apps as we do, and their single sign-on story is quite weak. So they're not comprehensive. On the compelling front, we took a look at the process to deploy the solution and to deploy policies, and we found MobileIron to be lacking because it takes so much longer and is so error-prone to do very similar things in MobileIron as it is to do them in the ZenMobile MDM console. So the administrative experience is very time-consuming and error-prone. And you needn't memorize these things, but just to kind of show you the number of steps that it takes to create a policy is many, many more steps. And the way we kind of characterize it is it's much too complicated for really what it is. So we kind of liken it to this very complicated machine for peeling potatoes. For something seemingly so simple shouldn't be so complicated, and that's really what MobileIron's experience is. So we call that not a compelling experience. And then also on the compliance front, so this is the third C, not compliant. Very similar to AirWatch, they deploy their solution also in the DMZ, their policy server. They synchronize enterprise directory data into the DMZ, whereas it is exposed to the internet. And they also have many more ports inbound, having to open up their firewall, which can cause threats from outside. So a very, definitely not a secure, not a compliant solution, a solution that many of our customers have said that they have passed on MobileIron for security concerns. Just a couple of examples of what customers who have evaluated both or who have swapped have said about MobileIron. They've talked about email downtime because of MobileIron's architecture of being in the mail path. They've talked about their policy deployment process not making sense, and they've also talked about getting the right level of support. So definitely, definitely something that this is a product that has a poor reputation from an uptime and from a supportability standpoint. And then finally, this is the third and final competitor that we'll take a look at, which is Good Technology. Unfortunately, we don't have screenshots of Good Technology. We don't have them up and running in our environment, but we do have robust information about what they're doing in the market. So the way that they position against us is they talk about being the most mature, the most secure, and having a story for not just devices, but apps and data. And it's worth just pointing out that Good Technology, as big and successful as they have been in secure mail, still is a point solution when you look at them compared to us. So when you talk about things like mobile, do they have a unified app store, any app on any device? The answer is only for mobile apps, not for SaaS apps, Windows apps, and data center apps. Do they have an enterprise-grade MDM as we do? They don't. They get that through a loose partnership that they have with a company called Voxtone. Do they have mobile app security? Well, they do have a solution. It's called Good Dynamics, but many of the customers that we talk to find it to be very difficult and onerous to implement, and in fact caused Good Technology to make an acquisition a few months ago because they were not able to make Good Dynamics successful in the marketplace. Their mail, docs, and browser solution exists, but they have a reputation of having a bad user experience, and so we think that we have an opportunity to position in that way because we really do focus on the end user. And then finally, federated identity and single sign-on only exists between good apps, not between all of the apps that are provided on the mobile device. So definitely still a point solution vis-a-vis Citrix. So hopefully given that little bit of information on the competitors, as well as information about how to start those conversations or what words to listen for when you're doing your discovery process, hopefully those things give you a little bit of insight about what you're likely to encounter in the field, and hopefully you will be ready for battle. And with that, I'm going to open it up to questions and any discussion and or feedback.
So if I may...
Cheryl, I know you're monitoring the...
Go ahead, Jamie.
I just want to clarify for everybody, I'm probably typing away. Today, a NetScaler is absolutely required with the Mobile Solutions Bundle. NetScaler drives a persistent, ongoing, proxied, and secure connection with Exchange for at-work mail. NetScaler also powers the micro VPN capabilities that allows customers to securely allow web access back into their data center. So anybody that buys Mobile Solutions Bundle absolutely needs a NetScaler. Otherwise, key features would be missing. Today for MDM, while NetScaler is not an absolute requirement, what I want to point out is that we are integrating the Secure Mobile Gateway into the NetScaler. And Secure Mobile Gateway is what provides email control if somebody's using MDM and native email. And that Secure Mobile Gateway allows customers to cut off email if individual devices or users are out of compliance, for example. So because they need email control and they will want Secure Mail Gateway to do that even with MDM, you are best off providing them today with a NetScaler, even for MDM. Because then if they want to upgrade to the Mobile Solutions Bundle, they'll already have NetScaler anyway. So I think I've pretty much answered. Okay, so here we go. So follow-up question, in the future, attachment encryption. Okay, so the attachment encryption is available with the Mobile Solutions Bundle, but it is not available with MDM. That is correct. Any additional questions? You can feel free to raise your hand at this time, and WASPI can unmute you, and you can ask us with your voice.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if anyone of you would like to ask a question, just raise your hand under the attendee list. There is actually an icon to raise the hand, and I will go and unmute you so you can ask your question freely.
Jamie, I do have a question for you that came up earlier. For technical support in APAC, where do APAC customers receive technical support for ZenPrize and for MDM? Where are the tech support folks physically located?
Where are they physically located? I'm not 100% sure. I'll get
Yeah,
back to
no
that.
problem. I
Yeah.
figured that we could send the reply to that one later if we need to.
Yeah, in the past we have offered support, worldwide, so always in local local areas for customers that that are not located in the U.S. But I'm not sure under the new Citrix where they're physically located. But I'll find out and let you know.
Yeah, Citrix does have tech support worldwide. I believe, though, the specialist MDM workforce is going to be invoked for kind of instant level 2 support if a call comes into the front end and it's an issue with MDM while we ramp up our front end tech support folks.
How about
are you seeing
feedback?
any questions?
How about feedback? I'm not seeing any questions on my screen. Any feedback? Let me ask you guys a question. Do you see any other competitors besides the ones that we've named doing anything in your accounts? Talking about mobile. Are you seeing these 3 competitors?
There is an answer from Ken Wong. I will go and unmute Ken. Go ahead, Ken.
Hey, Jamie.
Hey, Ken. How are you?
Yeah, we have a couple of different competitors, and Macro is just busy typing them. So IBM, Symantec, and the one that I personally faced before is SAP.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And who do you see mostly? I've heard IBM a little bit more. We haven't seen them at all for the past, several years, but we have seen them a couple times, like in the last, 3 to 6 months. Who do you think of those 3 is the most formidable, or from whom you're hearing the most interesting stories?
So I think for China market, I think the one that we heard the most is actually the Mobile. Mobile is the one that is actually very aggressive in China.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the 2 accounts that I have encountered in personally, we have seen Mobile and we have seen Goods. These 2 and AirWatch. These 3 are all in there.
Got it.
Yeah. And SAP is kind of caught us in surprise because we haven't seen them, so, and in TSMC they just pop up, and we kind of like look into it a little bit. You send me a little bit of the compete informations, and it's kind of interesting to see that they are actually MDM players in the market.
Yes. We have seen much more of SAP about 2 years ago in this market. We have not seen them as much in the last 6 to 12 months. And in fact, in the latest mobile device management Magic Quadrant from Gartner, they have gone down. They've gone to the left, and they've come down in terms of both execution and product innovation. So they're becoming less of a player in this market, even though, of course, they have mobile apps and mobile app development. But from a pure manageability, enterprise manageability standpoint, we've seen them less. So I'm surprised to hear that they're rearing their head again. But please give us feedback about the points that we've provided, if that has resonated with the customer, or if there's anything that you find out, sort of over and above what we've said. We'd be grateful for that feedback.
Okay, thanks, Jamie.
Thanks.
So one thing that I did want to make sure everybody knows is we have a whole lot of resources available on the sales knowledge base and in our success kits Included in those resources are 3 different competitive battle cards for the top 3 competitors Jamie reviewed. And as needed, we will update those materials and we will add additional competitive battle cards. So we're always looking to understand what your teams need, and as we find that out, we will rapidly address those new needs as quickly as we can.
There's some comments, Cheryl, there that there's also from Marco Zhang that Symantec, also IBM, and some local vendors in China.
That Symantec is in local partners in China.
Yep, as competitors.
Got it. Okay. And are they pushing their application wrapping technology, or are they pushing core mobile device management?
Let me just try to unmute Marco. Marco, do you want to go ahead and ask?
Yes. Hello. Can you unmute Xuegang, and Xuegang can help me answer the question? Excuse me.
Okay. Okay. I'll ask him. Okay, I'll unmute him. Okay.
Thank you.
Just trying to look for his name. Okay, Sabaji.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Okay, that's the gentleman there. Okay. Okay, Sue, you can go ahead.
We have met 1 or 2 cases. We met with Symantec. I'm not very quite sure what was they bundle as application wrapping, but they because we have several friends in Symantec, and they will push MDM solution this year. I heard from some guy from Symantec they will also push MDM this year. So I think in the following months we will meet them often.
Got it. Thank you. One thing to know about Symantec is that their solution is built almost entirely of recent small acquisitions. And my understanding from my contacts at Symantec is that those acquisitions are not integrated yet, and they have been executed in the last 6 to 12 months. 2 companies, Nucona on the mobile application front and Odyssey on the mobile device management front. And it's worth noting that especially in mobile device management, the company Odyssey was a very small niche player in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. So not a successful player in the market and seen as very immature technology. So when Symantec bought them, they bought something very small and very immature, not a leader, and they have not integrated those technologies yet. So hopefully those are points that will resonate with your customer when you have those conversations. By contrast, when Citrix, who already had a very robust mobile application story, bought Zenprise, the mobile device management company, they bought somebody who is a leader and is much more mature and larger with many more customers. So, so we already had a running start, and then after that, we have a very aggressive integration roadmap with a 3-part integration happening this year. So a very, very different story from Symantec. Hopefully customers will see that and understand it.
Okay, so they only have point solution, and their MDM is very weak, right? So
yes.
if in MDM we are far better than him, and I think the Symantec is because their advantage is coverage. maybe they even have better coverage than Citrix, I think, and that's their advantage. But in technical speaking, I think we have much better product features, MDM features to them, right? So we maybe later need some battle card to educate users, educate our customers why we are far better than their solution.
That is a very good point, and yes, I agree with you. The coverage is excellent from Symantec. Thank you for that intel. Anything else you find, please do pass along. Anything else? I'm hearing the BlackBerry 10 solution is quite inferior for iOS because Apple does not want to provide access to their device level technology. Oh, sorry,
Jamie. I was responding to the question about RIN being another competitor, now called BlackBerry, but RIN being a potential competitor with the 10, which can theoretically manage iOS and Android.
Yeah.
As well as BlackBerry.
The only time we ever hear about BlackBerry is when customers talk about ripping them out.
Cheryl, I don't quite agree with that because I think this is Ken. Recently, we get a request from Singapore that a bank from Singapore that is actually looking at the B10 very aggressively. So they are basically demand from the market that I think the new BlackBerry is actually driving. Okay, so customers is actually asking us that whether the receiver is going to be supported on the new BlackBerry platform. So there is still markets in there. I think we just need to be careful in terms of how we position that.
Yes, and we'll be looking at the new BlackBerry 10 solution and how we position against BlackBerry 10. What I was referencing is that from an MDM perspective, remember BlackBerry wants to sell their devices. They are inherently vested in selling their own devices. So Apple is going to be very sensitive to BlackBerry gaining information about how Apple devices work, and they're going to be much more cautious. That's all I was saying. I'm not saying BlackBerry 10 isn't a good solution. We don't have a lot of intel about it. We just know that customers are, in general, looking for other options because their users like the iOS and Android-based devices. So in that case, I'm not sure the BlackBerry solution for MDM would match up equally to something like Zenprise, where we are not selling devices. We're selling management solutions for any device.
Okay,
other
got it.
Thoughts, feedback, questions? Well, I don't think so.
Looks like we're fine, Jamie. It looks like we've covered the questions. Well, thank you very, very much, Cheryl. Thank you very much, Jamie, for attending this webinar. And thank you, everyone, for attending this webinar. I look forward for your feedback. As I mentioned, when I end this session, you will get a pop-up screen asking you to provide feedback using a web form. Please take the time to fill that feedback. It is very, very valuable to us. Again, thank you very much. Thank you all. And we'll see you next week with another important webinar. We're going to be covering SDX 8400, 8600. We're going to be covering VDI in a box 5.2. We're going to be covering Zen Client 4.5. And we're going to be covering interesting NetScaler Insight Center. We'll see you next week, and hopefully with another readiness webinar. Thank you very much. Be well. Bye-bye.